Alright, so what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper and welcome back everybody to a brand new video on the channel. Today what we're going to be discussing is the top 10 things that only pro PUBG players do. Now when I'm defining pro players, I'm talking about anybody who maybe plays on a professional team, perhaps they're a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber, or anybody who's just generally good at this and exceptional at PUBG, and tips that they would give you on getting better. Now these tips are going to apply for both third-person perspectives and first-person, so no matter what kind of player you are, these tips are bound to help you, and the more likely that you do these things that are going to be listed in this video, the more likely you are probably to get better at this game. But just before we get into all that, I have something for you guys. I'm going to be giving away 4 $15 cards of whatever you want. It can be a Steam card, Xbox, iTunes, literally whatever you want, and anybody and everybody should enter it. So if you guys want to enter this giveaway, the only thing you need to do is make sure you drop a like on the video. Second thing you need to do is make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. This is a subscribers only contest. And then the final thing is, let me know in the comment section how many of these things, how many of these tips that we list in this video do you do. Basically, you can just give me a number on a scale of 1 to 10 of how many of these tips you implement into your own playstyle when you're playing PUBG. But as one final thing, not a requirement at all, but if you're interested, I do have a Discord server, and if you want PUBG teammates either on mobile, on Xbox, or on PC, go and join the server, and there's always people looking all day, so if you want to squad up with somebody, then this is the place to be. But other than that, let's go and get started on the top 10 things that only pro PUBG players do. So coming in at the number 10 spot is carrying extra scopes for any given situation that you'll have the range for. So basically, these tips are going to get a little bit more advanced as we go on, but this is kind of starting at the bottom here. Now, if you don't really know what this is mostly the easiest way to do it on PC, as you can switch very fast. But say you're carrying around an M4 and a Kar 98, right? Your Kar 98 probably has the scope on it, and your M4 either has maybe a red dot or a hollow. That's typically what's ran. But if you also carry a 4x with you that you can quickly tab and switch between to put on the M4, let's say you tag somebody with your Kar 98, but he's like one shot and he's lit up, you got to finish him off. You can quickly throw the 4X onto the M4 and quickly finish off that guy before he gets away. This doesn't just have to be with a 4x scope. It can be with anything that's maybe too close to use for like a Kar 98, but a little bit too far away to use a red dot or hollow. Whenever you have that kind of range on you, you're going to be very dangerous on the field. Now coming in at the number 9 spot is a rule that is mostly followed, but there are a lot of niche situations where you could end up with more. But carrying no more than 15 bandages is ever necessary, especially when you have first aids or if you have med kits. If you don't have any of those, and yeah, I can understand maybe carrying 20 to 25, especially if you're going to med tank the zone a little bit. But other than that, if you have a decent, default regular kind of game setup where a couple first aids, couple boosters, that kind of thing, there's really no reason to tech more than 15 bandages at any given time. And yes, I am fully aware that there are definitely the situations where you do need them, especially if you're playing squads and your other teammates don't have any and they definitely need them. It can be very useful for that, but in solos and duos, and especially if you only have like a level 2 or 1 bag, if you don't have that luxury of a 3 bag, then there's really no reason to have more than 15, as it's going to take up a lot of space, and bandages they take long to use as well, so they're not super efficient in my opinion. Bandages have been almost rendered completely useless with how common first aids are, and now the additions of actual adrenaline syringes that you can find around, and they're not in airdrops anymore, so they kind of make bandages obsolete in a way. They are still useful, but really no more than 15 you need. Now coming in at the number 8 spot is a very overlooked one, and I think even pro players still don't ever think about this sometimes. It's something that is able to slip under the radar of a lot of players, and this is knowing when to remove your suppressor off your gun, especially in the final circle. What I mean by this is normally in the final circle, the whole point of a suppressor is to be able to hide your position or make it harder for enemies to find you and take longer for them to locate you. But when it's in that final circle and nobody's that hard to find at all, you just need to go a few feet before spotting an enemy, then the suppressor literally doesn't matter, because it's only going to hide the sound of your shots from a couple hundred meters away. And when you're that compactly close together, the suppressor is actually useless. You'll be better off throwing on the flash hider or the compensator that you'll probably have as well. I'd recommend compensator just because it's going to be the best in actual just gunfight practicality. It's really not the biggest deal in the world to keep on your suppressor for the end of the game, but if it comes down to it and you have time to either choose between the compensator and the suppressor, and the circle is very close and like distance and sound do not matter, then always run the compensator or always run the flash hider, something like that. But when enemies are far away, you're trying to keep your cover and they're definitely a few hundred meters out in the distance, and yeah, the silencer is going to be very good for you. Now coming in at the number 7 spot is knowing what windows you can vault from and which ones you should just jump out of. Now, because there is a difference in actual amount of damage you take. In a couple of different scenarios, there are windows that are just high enough off the ground where if you vault out of them, you will take damage. But if you get on like the windowsill and then jump out and kind of just walk off, then you won't take any damage. It's a little weird how how the vaulting mechanic is currently implemented into PUBG. I think it could use a little bit of tweaking, but there are certain instances where ledges will give you damage if you vault, but not if you walk off it, and some people have been very attuned to which ones they can and can't vault from. I know it sounds like a really minor thing, but I'm not gonna lie, this can save you, and it's definitely saved me in a ton of situations, honestly. And it's definitely little tips like that that really don't seem like a big deal, but are huge for better players. Now, coming in at the number 6 spot is definitely a good tip, but it's not as important as it used to be when the game was first coming out, and not taking level 3 bags is a thing for a lot of players. It used to be for me. I don't really care anymore because it's not as important as it was, and the meta of PUBG has changed so much that it's kind of irrelevant. You can take whatever bag you want, but back in the day, you would be probably better off with a level 2 bag just playing solo. A level 3 bag is kind of like an unnecessary amount of carrying space. You don't need it for one player, and also it makes you stick out a lot. Back in the day, how people used to play PUBG is they would always sit by a tree or try to lay down and snake the zone, as people didn't really know what they were doing, and you know, players have learned a lot more about this game, so they play more confidently. But back then, you were very easily spotted by the tallness of your backpack, and you could be picked out of the grass very easily if you had a level 3. Not just me, but a lot of other pro players and streamers will recommend that same tip to you as well. Maybe not so much anymore, but definitely back then. And it's kind of like an older tip, but I think it still holds true to some extent in PUBG today. I don't really care if I have a level 3 bag, I'll take that, but I used to only take a level 3 bag over a 1, but if I had a 2, that's what I would be satisfied with. So coming in at the number 5 spot is a tip that I recommend that everybody gets in the habit of because it's super useful and it saved my life so much. And this is moving while using any kind of meds, whether it's a bandage, a first aid kit, an adrenaline, energy drink, you know, literally whatever. Whenever you have to be like stood there and using a kind of action out in the open, make sure you're at least moving a little bit. They've patched it to where you used to just be able to crouch up and down to kind of like bob your head so nobody would headshot you, and that would save your life a lot. But now you can kind of hit your movement keys very slightly, and you can kind of keep on your feet and move around a little bit, and it helps a lot. You'll see me every time in my gameplay, whether I'm hitting a med kit or using an energy drink, using some kind of booster, I'm always moving around. And I know that sounds like a very minor thing, but trust me, it's very helpful. I'm not really sure how well that translates over into the Xbox version and mobile version of the game, but if that's possible, then I would recommend that to you for sure. Now, coming in at our number 4 spot is being able to switch seats in a vehicle while moving, and this is like a very hardcore tip. Now, there really aren't any players that are like perfect at this kind of thing, but what I'm talking about is, say you're in a UAZ and it's just you driving, you see somebody on the road or in also a vehicle driving next to you, you can quickly hit Control 2 or whatever button it is for you to switch into your passenger seat and let your car kind of drift on the current trajectory, but be able to shoot out the window while it's going, and you know, nobody else is driving it, and then switching back after you kill the guy to get back in your driver's seat and then, you know, get away from there. That's a super hard thing to do. I've really only done it successful a few times, and it's difficult. However, when you successfully pull that kind of thing off, it's absolutely exhilarating. Go and try it and see how difficult it is for yourself. Now, coming in at the number 3 spot is paying attention to the kill feed and basically using that to make better decisions within your game. Now, the reason why this is important is especially in the final few people, maybe top 10, you can see what kind of weapons are on the battlefield, and if, you know, somebody has a standout weapon like an M24 or something like that, and he gets a kill from the hill, you know he's still alive, and you see his name. Now, you know that that spot will be covered until either he dies or he moves, so if you're paying attention to the kill feed and you know that he goes down, that spot should be clear and that should be open. It basically lets you paint a picture of the current battlefield in your mind, and if you have that going for you while the other enemies don't, you have this kind of visualization of where everybody is, you have such an edge over them. It's not like you have to be watching it from the very beginning when everybody's still alive, but I would definitely say pay attention when it's either top 20, top 10, and especially top 5. It will give you so much more success in your games, and you'll probably surprise yourself with it. Now, coming in at the number 2 spot is something that goes hand in hand with the last tip that we just discussed, and this is identifying weapons in the battlefield just by their noise. If you can do this, then you'll know where certain people are, not even by the kill feed if they don't manage to pick off anybody, but just by the sound of their weapon. Now, silence ones can be a little bit tricky sometimes, and especially determining where they are, but you can identify guns just by the noise and with the sound of that kind of thing. You'll start to get a pretty good idea of what players you are safe to challenge right now, which ones would be good, which ones you should stay away from at the moment, and to see if anybody else makes a move on them, and you get a huge visualization of the situation that you're given. And what PUBG comes down to is just who makes the smartest and best plays, and when you have that information, you have that kind of knowledge, and the other players don't really do that, you have such an advantage over people who just don't care to learn those things. And learning these weapon sounds do take time. The only way to really get good at that is just play the game a lot. Once you have a lot of hours played, you get familiar with everything in it. But now it's time to unveil the final tip of today, and coming in at our #1 spot, this is going to be playing your game on the lowest possible graphical settings. This is something that I get questions about all the time in my comment section of my videos. It's like, dude, why is your textures look so bad? Like, why is your game turned down very low? Now, this is the reason why you want to do this is because that is the only way to get a competitive edge visually against your enemies. When you have all of your graphics settings that low, it basically scrapes away all the extra details and stuff that the game does not necessarily need to run or play, and takes away all the extra lighting, shadows, that kind of thing, and puts it at its very most bare bones graphics. Of course, this isn't gonna look the best, right? PUBG isn't known for being a beautiful game, but if you take a player that has all their settings on like very ultra high, and you have somebody on very low settings, the chances are the low settings player is gonna see that guy miles before the one with the detailed settings ever sees the other. Now, here's where the divide for some players comes in, because a lot of people care more about graphics than anything else, right? They want the game to look beautiful, and they don't want a game that sort of looks like it was developed for the PlayStation 2. You know what I'm saying? I get that PUBG can look very ugly sometimes, and I don't really play PUBG because it's a pretty game. I play it, you know, to have a competitive edge against other players, and some people just have their priorities different. Some people prefer the graphics kind of things, and some people just want to have the best way to play actual, like, competitively possible. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just two different types of players. Some people like the scenery kind of mode of playing PUBG more, and then some people like this way, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You just have to kind of figure out what kind of player you are. But if you are serious about playing it competitive or taking it seriously, then you're gonna want to play on everything, all of your graphics settings very low, or at least low nonetheless. But I think that is going to be our list of top 10 things that pro players do in PUBG, and you guys can leave it in the comment section how many of these tips do you apply to your gameplay. Also, if you have any other tips that you think that very good players do in this game, then let me know what that is in the comment section down below. But I think we can go ahead and wrap the video up here. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do enter the giveaway from the beginning of the video and just follow the rules on that. And also, if you want to go and join the Discord server, then I'd appreciate that a lot. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you all on the next live stream or the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and peace out.